Copyright disclaimer. Kindly take this dream unto Abba Yahuwah through his son Yahushua Messiah for wisdom and discernment. The dream started with me and my relatives in front of a Catholic church, and so they entered while I stayed in the threshold. Now there's a surge of Christians at the threshold, so an usherette sternly exclaimed for them to enter, because she said, not verbatim, but something to the effect of Christianity is still under the Roman Catholic Church. And so I decided to enter as well to sit down with the Christians. I went to one wing at the balcony, I believe it was the right wing, in order for me to sit at the vacant seats, but they made excuses to prevent me from sitting down with them. So I decided to go to the center part of the balcony. I was able to find a seat at the edge of one of the church pews and was just observing the people at the first floor. Then a bald man ranted about the eastern part of Spain having an event of some sort that would result into the citizens being under control of the GOVT or the wicked people, more like restrictions of some sort. Then the woman beside me touched my chest, and I told her why would she touch it when hers was bigger. Just strange. And a lady from the first floor was waving and shouting something as if she was a celebrity or she seemed familiar. And then came my former classmate named Jennifer, and so I asked her if she recognized the woman. But she angrily told me that there's something on my teeth and she wouldn't tell me, just wanted to forcefully remove it, and even those who are surrounding me want to brutally use force. Something I believe I can just remove manually. Then the Ruach HaKodesh have led me to check upon the name Jennifer, which originated from Guinevere, which is King Arthur's wife. But what caught my attention was the play, The Doctor's Dilemma.
From the treasure chest of Bernard Shaw's creations, which have yielded such priceless entertainments as Pygmalion on the screen and My Fair Lady on the stage, now comes a new triumph.
It is not an ordinary case, not like any other case, not like any other case. He's not like anybody else in the world.
Leslie Caron, who uses her charms to captivate a famous society doctor, as she asks help for her artist husband, portrayed by the continental favorite Dirk Bogarde, a rascal who is as irresistible to most women as his wife is to most men. These were the physicians of the period. Who could arrange at handsome fees to stimulate your phagocytes. At any rate, their hilarious frauds will certainly stimulate your laughter.
Have you forgotten that lovely opera singer I sent you to have a growth taken off her vocal cords?
Great heavens, man, you didn't send her for a throat operation.
You removed the nuciform sac. Force of habit, my dear fellow, force of habit. Never mind, she got her voice back afterwards, and now she thinks you're the greatest surgeon in the world. So you are.
It's a dilemma. Yes, it's a dilemma.
A dilemma indeed. Can he? Should he? Will he preserve the young artist's health? Although, perish the thought, what a darling widow she would make. What to do? Call a consultation, of course. Call a consultation, of course.
You mean to insinuate that Mrs. Dubedat is living with you without being married to you?
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Why not? Yes, why not?
Kindly bear with me with where this goes. Phagocyte, a type of immune cell that can surround and kill microorganisms, ingest foreign material, and remove dead cells. It can also boost immune responses. Isn't it quite interesting that it was mentioned in that play, as this cell can naturally cure us from diseases?
It's a dilemma.
The story revolves around Sir Colenso Region, who is newly knighted for his revolutionary new cure for tuberculosis. He can only cure 10 patients at a time, so it's limited. He hosts a feast or conference to choose 10 out of 50 patients which he deems most worthy of being saved. A quote-unquote selection. Another physician named Dr. Cullen had warned him that his procedure or surgery hasn't been tested yet and reminded him of his vaccination before, which failed, and also that he is just giving patients false hopes and that he should remember the patients, but Dr. Region just dismissed him as being paranoid. The conflict starts as Jennifer asks Dr. Region to save her husband named Louis, who is a talented artist whom, if saved from tuberculosis, can earn a lot of money. Dr. Region is admitting that he can still stretch out and grant Louis some leniency. But this was tainted when Dr. Region discovered that Louis is not as clean as he presents himself. A dilemma finally ignites when Dr. Blinkenshop asks Dr. Region to be saved from tuberculosis as he is helping poor people. Should he save the young man or his colleague, the doctor? And it climaxed when he fell in love with Jennifer, so he concocted an evil plan. He thought that he can have Jennifer when Louis dies, and so he deceived Jennifer and Louis into thinking that if he cures Dr. Cullen can in turn cure Louis. He believed that Louis deserved the deceit as his integrity didn't pass Dr. Region's standards. Upon reading more in the Amazon site, it signifies as well the play, the dilemma that doctors encounters as they are tempted to perform costly, useless, best case scenario, harmless operations or treatments for personal gain. Allegedly, the play was said to be inspired by an ENT specialist in London which developed a simple and almost harmless operation to remove the uvula of a patient, which was unbeneficial to the patient but earned him a lot of money. Sounds familiar? But wait, there's more. The author George Brendan Shaw have given credit to Sir Armroth Wright as his medical science source to the play. Quote, "It will be evident to all experts that my play could not have been written but for the work done by Sir Armroth Wright on the theory and practice of securing immunization from bacterial diseases by the inoculation of vaccines made of their own bacteria." Unquote. No coincidences. The Doctor's Dilemma, the wicked thought of the society doctor. Then let's go to the caduceus symbol of the medical healthcare system.
The caduceus is often used to represent medicine and healing, but in its original interpretation, this symbol had nothing to do with the medical field. This symbol had nothing to do with the medical field. In fact, the original symbol of medicine is the rod of Asclepius. Both symbols come from Greek mythology, but over time have become conflated and confused because they look somewhat alike. The caduceus is the symbol of the Greek god Hermes, the divine trickster who flies around on his winged sandals. The word caduceus means herald in Latin, referring to Hermes' role as the messenger of the gods. He's the god of merchants, travelers, thieves, and swindlers. He's the god of merchants.
For your merchants were the great ones of the earth, for by your drug sorcery all the nations were led astray. Jason 18 verse 23.
Because of its link to Hermes, the caduceus represents all that Hermes is associated with, including commerce, negotiation, and printing. This is why many medical professionals disapprove of the caduceus as a medical symbol. The likely reason that the caduceus became linked to medicine is because of its similarity to the rod of Asclepius. The rod of Asclepius features a single snake wrapped around a staff. It belongs to Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine. Legend has it that as a child, Asclepius had once healed a snake. To show its gratitude, the snake bestowed on him secret healing knowledge. Asclepius had extraordinary healing power. He is even mentioned in the original version of the Hippocratic Oath, one of the most widely known Greek medical texts, which required a new physician to swear on several healing gods that they would uphold the ethical standards of the profession. I swear by Apollo the physician and Asclepius and Hygieia and Panacea and all the gods and goddesses as my witnesses, that, according to my ability and judgment, I will keep this oath and this contract. This rod of Asclepius is a reflection of medicine and its advancements. The staff symbolizes authority and wisdom, while the snake represents healing and rejuvenation. This is the original, the symbol of medicine. The usage of the caduceus as a symbol of medicine was popularized by the U.S. Army Medical Corps, which adopted the symbol as its insignia in 1902. Did they mix it up with the rod of Asclepius, or was it an informed decision? Since then, the two symbols have been used interchangeably by many medical organizations, especially in the United States. Today, it's used in many medical contexts, strengthening its association with medicine. What's more, it does feature snakes, which are associated with healing, cure, recovery, and regeneration. And because the symbol originated from Hermes' efforts to stop a conflict between two serpents, it's also symbolic of peace and power.
No coincidences, as the woman in the dream sternly have said that the Christianity is still under the Roman Catholic system. And just check out that caduceus symbol at his staff, Orthodox Church. As for the bald man mentioning Spain in my dream, led me to checking out the Spanish flu pandemic.
It is recorded by the Spanish press, and it becomes dubbed as the Spanish flu. Because they are neutral. In the 21st century, with scientists and historians now getting together to work much more closely, that figure has now been upped to 50 to 100 million people killed. This virus killed more people in the first 25 weeks than HIV/AIDS has killed in 25 years. Horrendous. I mean, those mortality statistics are staggering. The symptoms are very graphic and very, very striking. So, it's said that some people drowned in their own phlegm. So if it was hitting or affecting the lungs, people were spurting blood from their ears and their noses. Descriptions of people turning blue or purple. So, it was really, really severe. And people just dropping down in the street. Those that succumbed to the flu were in the age group 20 to 40 years, which is very unusual for an influenza epidemic or pandemic, and scientists and historians are now still looking to see why. Why?
There's really two ways that people died in 1918. They either died from the initial flu infection, or they died from an enormously strong immune response to that virus. Where their lungs just filled up with fluids from trying to attack the virus that got into their lungs.
You know, how did it spread so rapidly around the world? To places that are not part of the theatre of war. I think the traditional explanation is it starts in Kansas, in an army camp, and then the troops bring it over to the trenches, Europe. But there's still many unknowns.
If you understand the origins, if you understand the origin of a pandemic, then you understand something about where it's come from, and maybe you can stop that in future. Then you understand something about where it's come from, and maybe you can stop that in future.
Just as people were celebrating Armistice Day, there was hope that it was dying down, but then it resurged, and a far more deadly and virulent strain, emerged. So this second wave really spread like wildfire, affecting a third or a quarter of the population of the world. And it was short-lived, so it petered out not long afterwards, maybe 1921. But it was in the sense short-lived.
In our lab here in Cambridge, we study both seasonal flu and pandemic flu from the standpoint of how does the virus evolve, and how can we predict that evolution, and make vaccines, to try to artificially evolve the virus both in the laboratory and in the computer, to understand what it's going to do next, and to make vaccines against those strains that will evolve in the future. So this is the basic science of studying evolution and trying to predict that evolution, something that nobody's ever been able to do for a complex organism. And then working to use that understanding to make better vaccines.
Flu is very difficult to eradicate because it's constantly mutating and changing its genetic information.
We really don't know why we haven't seen a pandemic as deadly as the 1918 pandemic. We really don't know why we haven't seen a pandemic as deadly as the 1918 pandemic. Scientists and public health officials are extremely concerned. The National Risk Register, which is the way that our government plans what are all the risks to civil society in the UK, there's only two events that are up there in terms of the most catastrophic, and that's a terrorist event or a influenza pandemic.
Well, experts like to say it's not if but when.
Surely we'll be in a situation where we know more about what viruses are in the world and where they are. Surveillance will be so much better. Surely we'll be in a better situation where we have better drugs and better vaccines. Because we know more about the virus, so we know more about its weaknesses. We know more about our immune systems, and we know how to enable them to fight those pathogens better. At some point we will have a universal vaccine. That will protect us against flu for the rest of our lives. There are a great number of approaches and really good ideas to doing this. There are already attempts at this that are at a quite advanced stage. It might be 10 years from now. It might be 20 or 30 or 40 years from now. We really don't know.
La sospecha que tenemos es que la administración en la Comunidad de Madrid tiene un plan privatizador. Empiezan a erosionar el nivel primario para conseguir que el servicio sea de peor calidad, y eso al final redunde en que el sistema poco a poco vaya perdiendo calidad y conseguir así el meter la privatización de una manera progresiva y subrepticia.
Pues hay que pensar que si falla la atención pública, tarde o temprano va a fallar la atención privada. Pues hay que pensar que si falla la atención pública, tarde o temprano va a fallar la atención privada.
Se está privatizando muchos de los servicios porque no se está invirtiendo en la atención primaria. Entonces se está dando dinero al ámbito privado para llenar las arcas del ámbito privado, quitándolo del sistema sanitario público, y eso es mucho más costoso. Entonces necesitamos que ese dinero venga a la atención primaria, al sistema sanitario público, porque es lo más equitativo para todos los ciudadanos, lo que no discrimina de la cuenta corriente de un paciente, da igual que tengas millones en tu cuenta corriente o no tengas nada, que el sistema sanitario te va a seguir atendiendo, y si necesitas un trasplante cardíaco lo vas a tener independientemente del dinero que tengas. Y si necesitas una atención para tu hijo, lo vas a tener independientemente del dinero que tengas. Por eso estamos luchando.
Stop trusting in mere humans who have but a breath in their nostrils. Why hold them in esteem?
It is better to take refuge in Yahuwah than to trust in man. Tehillah 118, verse 8. Shalom.